L'audio, grazie. Sì, signore e signori, buongiorno.
Hello, good afternoon. So, during this hour, we are going to dwell on the study and the market research on presbyopic patients. And so I'm asking my speakers and the audience to be as brief as possible in order to support those who have been working since 9 a.m. and also the following speakers. Let me introduce the panel. Well, you know that I'm an expert, well, let's say. So, on this part, so Lo Perfido, Parisotto from Essilorlosottica. So on that side, two representatives of the retail world from Rome, Lisi and Gianluca Petrini. So on the stage we have the world of the industry, of the eye doctors and of the opticians. And now let me show you what resulted from that market research with 500 people involved who underwent an eye exam and then went to the optician to have a pair of glasses. And let me start from the ophthalmic world. The research method is always important. It is important to understand what questions to ask. And in these interviews, 500 people were interviewed, presbyopic patients who in the last 12 months underwent an eye exam and then went to the optician to get a pair of glasses. That's the mission of the study. And these are the main questions. I think you have already read them. So questions are having to do with the ophthalmic world and other questions pertaining to the optician. The market research was conducted in September 2023. So it's not too old, so I may be confident that things have not changed that much. So we said we have an experience with the eye surgeon, with the optician, and with the selected product. That's the sample in detail. As you can see, it's a homogeneous sample, much closer to the new presbyopic patients, and all people well aware of their visual impairment, and this awareness led them to go to an eye doctor. In this period, it is very important to understand how much time this person needs to go to an eye doctor. So how much time passes between the phone call and the eye exam. And you see that especially in the private world, that time is relatively short. Well, in a public setting, it is a bit longer, but let's say on average 30 days. We will then ask our panel why 68% of people resort to private eye doctors instead of public exams. We can say that the ophthalmic world also due to the decisions by the government now tend to delegate to the private sector what usually what was usually conducted by public eye doctors. So 91% within 45 minutes, 29 minutes on average. You see that waiting time is relatively short, no great difference between north and south. We wanted to investigate that particular aspect, but we see that from Rome to the south, no changes versus the north. And then, the waiting time is relatively shorter in the private setting, as we all know, but where you see public eye exams, in 42% of the cases, you got an appointment in the next 30 days, and this is not bad. As you see, public exams are a bit shorter, and this may also be due to the fact that there's a long queue, and so exams should be shorter, but it's usually on between 30 and 35 minutes. What about the visual problem? So we're talking about people aged over 40, and so presbyopia is the dominant impairment, myopia too. But interestingly, among these people, there are very few of them who do not remember the visual impairment they suffer from. So this means that they are interested in knowing what is wrong. And then other problems, dry eye. The dry eye is becoming a hot topic, as my colleagues will say. Other elements, no other problems or diseases, 52%, half of the target. And then did the eye doctor recommend a solution? And you see by 2/3 the recommended solution is the progressive glass or monofocal glasses to use at the office. So pre-assembled eyeglasses, if the patient has not a very severe problem, a pre-assembled pair of glasses could be a good solution as well. The recommended product is usually progressive lens, and so office or PC eye glasses are still below average, but eye doctors are pushing for them too. So was an optician recommended? No. And a prescription? Yes, in 2/3 of the panel. And when no prescription was issued, we assume the problem was not that severe to require a prescription. And now I would like to ask the eye doctors for an opinion. Let's start with Dr. Loperfido. Well, what I would like to point out is the following. First, it's true, when a patient comes to see us, it's usually because they think they are just presbyopic, but then in most of the cases we identify other problems as well. And a patient is hardly aware of closing one eye and then the other and identifying any problems. And so new problems arise that make underlying diseases even more complicated. And I mean, even in case of worsening diseases, I think eyeglasses should be recommended, because one of the mistakes which is usually made is to see the patient sitting on a chair in front of us. I have to consider the patient in his or her daily life when having lunch or watching TV or looking after children. So in his daily life, and temporary eyeglasses, spectacles, even if they reach improvements by 1 or 2 tenths of a diopter is good, and that's the first interface between the ophthalmic and the optician world. I would send a small letter to the opticians saying, pay attention, this is a temporary pair of glasses, it's not the final pair of spectacles, and so that the optician is aware of that. And this is a communication which is appropriate and that should take place. The second thing that, in my opinion, is very important is the family history. The family history makes up half of the patient's eye visit. For the tear film well, the first question we should ask the patient is, why are you here? And if you do not get an answer, the exam will not going to be perfect. So first the question and then the family history or the patient's history. And this is the best information that should be conveyed and transferred to the optician as well. Hello, good afternoon, and thank you for the invitation. Well, I will not dwell on the problem of the waiting lists, but I'd like to express my personal remark, my personal experience. After the COVID pandemic, anxiety, worry, the awareness of potential problem have all risen, also thanks to the many information campaigns that have been organized. And so many people remember now that their parents had diabetes, they wore spectacles, and so patients, human beings who go to an eye doctor, see an eye doctor, may simply have some unpleasant feelings due to the stress caused by COVID. And after the 40 years of age, and in people at working age, and well, I think we will all go on working until 90, so it is very difficult for emmetropes to work from two different distances, the distance from the keyboard and the distance from the screen, or the distance from the shelf and the distance from the ingredients on the package, on the product that you bought, or the distance on a car from the navigation system. There are many situations that require a double distance, and with two monofocal pair of glasses, you cannot achieve a proper vision. Last but not least, the use of the smartphone. And, you know, as we all have to do with digital tools, so with computers, we have an increasing problem with dry eyes. So on the one hand, we have a visual problem, and on the other hand, we have a disease that has to be treated somehow. The office lenses, the office spectacles are certainly becoming increasingly successful. Well, the only thing that we should do is to explain with some simple examples like the ones I've just described, that how spectacles have to be worn and the need for them. The collaboration with the opticians is fundamental, because the person going to the eye doctor or to the optician has the chance of checking visual integrity. If you have full vision, it doesn't mean that your visual system is healthy. Well, if you have glaucoma at the initial stage, this does not impair vision. And so this interchange has a benefit for people who go to the optician and who may not know about the existence of eye doctors. If you look at cartoons, usually eye doctors are those who show the chart. Instead, eye doctors should be represented as those with a slit lamp in front of them. And that's the misunderstanding. There are two jobs which are likewise important, but they are complementary. They can collaborate. So that a person who never underwent an eye exam can do so. Another thing to point out is that most of the population, due to the lack of information, because there's a culture missing, and eye doctors and opticians are not to blame, institutions should have provided this information. Well, most of the people think that when you undergo the exam for the driving license, the person in front of you is an eye doctor, but this is not the case. This is not an eye exam. And there's this misunderstanding. So these people think they underwent a medical eye visit. And he may suffer from amblyopia, and the person issuing the driving license may say, well, you have to go to the eye doctor, but this person has simply a lazy eye, and a lazy eye can hardly be treated when one is 45. And, well, you know, an improvement of training and continuous education should take place both for eye doctors and for opticians. In conclusion, I want to say that well, the job of the eye doctor has changed in the meantime. I'm old, I'm 68, but in the last 30 years ophthalmology has made huge progress, both in diagnostics and in therapeutics, and also in production, in the production of visual remedies. So I think eye doctors have few information about that, and as far as opticians are concerned, training must take place too, trying to homogenize, standardize training and education so that there is just one single job with the highest number of competencies, and this is what the previous speech was about. Thank you very much. Thank you for your insights, both in terms of training and education and the use of office lenses. Dr. Parisotto, you are a representative of the industrial world, although you are constantly in contact with the medical world in EssilorLuxottica. Based on the data that emerged from concerning the ophthalmic world, what could you say? Well, the research study is very accurate, but well, 40% recommended progressive lenses and 24% office lenses. Well, this would mean that we have a penetration rate of that level, but this is not the case because there's a mismatch between the prescription and what opticians give. We've reached top quality, and well, the fitting of the progressive lens should no longer exist, because if we have a very precise chain between the prescription and the fitting, the centering of the lens, no adaptation should take place then, as opticians will confirm. So our role is to be very close to both categories, because we need to provide the right information to the eye doctors on the technologies that we can nowadays supply to our end users. Technologies nowadays are becoming increasingly precise, but at the same time require the utmost attention. So our role is to inform doctors about the possibilities that ophthalmic lenses provide, and there are many, and we have to be very close to the opticians by explaining how these technologies can be easily used by the final users with very satisfactory results. Well, considering that we are overwhelmed by digitization, by technologies, regardless of one's own job, because we're all digitally connected, and so the idea that a person can maintain his status without a multifocal lens, well, is important. So this 40% is good, should be increased with an increased number of prescriptions. But we also have a role to play. We have to convey that the message whereby the quality of life before presbyopia can be retained also after presbyopia. And what is interesting is the mismatch between prescription and use. And now let's move to the experience with the optician. So let's work now on the experience.
First of all, 68% of those that received a visit went to the optician, and amongst those that received a prescription, the percentage is higher. What does it mean as an expert? My feeling is that they want to go to an optical center as short as possible, as quickly as possible. Here you have specific data, and the most important part is by 30 days. Those that didn't go to the optician didn't have the prescription or such an urgent need. I just went to a single optician. 77% states it, 13% various quotes, and 10% they simply stopped at the shop window to see prices. And we'll make a comment about it with our retail experts. Usually you think that people go around to get an idea. The feeling is that such subjects have a strong interest to solve the problem quickly with the most adequate professional, irrespective of the prices. In the after-sales phase, are you contacted? Have you been contacted? And from my point of view, unfortunately, 81% states they've not been contacted by the optical center after they have received the solution, and we do not understand why, with such a client, the optical expert, why the expert doesn't call the client. The experience of the chosen product, with the chosen product, the system is based on the quality of answers. The average is 8, just like when you make a reservation for a room at booking. That's a good average 8. And products chosen are those indicated, and perhaps in this case the mismatch, the problem of the mismatch is solved positively. Obviously, assembled reading spectacles, it is proposed by the optician for a limited period of time, and then progressive eyeglasses, who played a fundamental role in the choice of progressive eyeglasses. Methodology is always important. We investigated those that went to the eye doctor first and then optician. Consider this aspect. 44% says the eye doctor, 34 both, and 22 the optician. And don't be discomforted by that 44% because the initial choice was the egg or the chicken. And then, in general, how do you find the products? The result is reassuring. 8% was the final ranking. And the mismatch, in this case, that has been solved. Yes, they've not been contacted but at the end they solved the problem by themselves, or you may have that subtle, general, initial misunderstanding that is then solved. At this point, I'd like to ask our friends, the managers from two important family companies in Rome, if they can give a comment about such data. Lisi. Does it work? Yes. You have so much food for thought here. When I was shaking my head, it was some sort of confirmation. The two actors, we opticians, optometrists, and eye doctors are the main protagonists of the sector. Our suggestion is fundamental. Yes, those percentages may change. However, before I listened to what the eye doctors said, and it was music to my ears. Dr. Leperfido talked about family history, in-depth family history. We define it, the search for the main complaint. If I don't do this, I cannot provide an adequate solution. And this can raise a set of doubts as a function of my knowledge. If the problem is not just optical adjustment, but however, we will go back to it. And today, thinking about multifocal glasses, yes, of course, because Giorgio Parisotto or Dr. Mazzacane, they said, how can we have single eyeglasses and monofocal lens for a single position, even if from far, we give. You should give some sort of elasticity to the youth, but multifocal lenses should be prevailing. And today, companies make available wonderful instruments, and if you have somebody that doesn't adapt, it's a rare exception. And I can also understand when a patient speaks about negative experience and the eye doctor has no type of defense. The doctor gets on the defensive, and the problem is communication between us. In my company, by 7-10 days, we set the date to call the client back to check if the client is satisfied with the eyeglasses. If they're not satisfied, the client comes back. But you may have a refractive problem at that point. And so what do? We call the eye doctor and we tell the doctor, I have found this. If you agree with me, I can lower the addiction. And I tell the patient that we have shared a solution, and we are both winners to the benefit of the citizen, of the patient, of the client. And actually, you have more communication than you may think, but we should communicate and solve problems. That's the objective. How can we do it? We share our experience and we go on. And in my opinion, I believe we can do much more. But I'd like to give the floor to Gianluca. Gianluca Petrini, Visionottica. I have this terrible inheritance and they exchanged me for my brother. It's interesting to start from the concept of mismatch. made by Dr. Parisotto. And I'd like to go back to it after what you have said. This research gives an idea about a patient who goes to the eye doctor, and based on the experience the patient had with the eye doctor, then the patient goes to the optician. It's a virtuous, ideal path. You have communication between all the various protagonists, and we agree that the patient, citizen, should receive information from these two professional figures. The eye doctor suggests in 71% of cases progressive lenses, computer lenses, and there's no mismatch. In the case of this survey, 77% of the cases they buy this product. The interesting hint is open the window and discover what you have outside of this survey, and case series we should work on. And today we live in a digital world, and if the patient is exposed to a life that requires corrections for the digital world, sometimes patients self-prescribe the prescription. They have dry eyes and they don't even think it can be a disease. They may think it's normal, it's the air conditioning. And so it's interesting to detect those patients outside of this virtuous cycle, and those settings that expose citizens to mismatch when they don't go to eye doctors, discovering that they have a disease, and citizens are not exposed to another mismatch, finding information about the problem on their own. It's interesting to discover just one part of citizens decide to resort to a professional figure. It's an area where we are deficient. In the data we exchanged for the roundtable, it was interesting to read the results of the survey of eye doctors, if they were satisfied at the information given by the industry, and they said no. That's a question for you. Gianluca, yes. Information is a crucial point in the eye world. With the advent of technologies, we've learned as an industry to go to the eye doctor. Today what we can offer is a team that on a daily basis goes to eye doctors to provide information. And now the concept of presbyopia is also considered. You have prescriptions, suggestions, but you have many points where there's no information about a special product. We speak about personalized progressive lenses, and very often it's difficult to make the right measurement, and that's information we should provide. One-to-one visits and conferences. Many eye doctors were present, and they can get to know such new technologies. We wanted to inform more and more. 30 seconds.
Sì, quello che volevo sottolineare.
Yes, I just wanted to stress that very often when patients come to us, yes, well, we should discover why they want correction. I believe that best examples are simplest examples. When I realize who the patient is in front of me, their cultural level, and I always make examples speaking about daily life. And if you go to the supermarket and it's women usually, and dynamic vision and static vision. Dynamic is driving.
Ultima proprio 30 secondi.
Sì, penso
Just 30 seconds. I believe that we should add something to what Lizzie has just said, and I agree with him. We should teach how to see, and ironically, we should teach how to see and spend some time making such practical examples applied to daily life. And loyalty is important for the eye doctor and optician. Think about the purchase of a car. You buy a car, the car has a warranty, and from time to time you have coupons, and calling back the patient, getting to know the degree of satisfaction to avoid certain comments made by clients when they state that they have friends and didn't like progressive lenses, and or you may have patients that see me wearing eyeglasses and they ask me, where do you buy your eyeglasses? So I must close at this point because we want to just stick to the time schedule. We should communicate more outside with every possible element. Thank you so much, because this chain will be the chain of the future, because main objective is not to understand where the ball is, but to understand that the patient, client is the same person. Thank you so much.
Posso?
Veloce, velocissimo.
No, perché credevo che avessimo più tempo e volevo...
I thought we had more time. I wanted to mention an aspect. What we see here is just one element. There are two additional elements. Somebody that has a problem to see near, and that person comes to us. And we should also understand how to engage this person and check this person and send this person to you. And then together we should realize that ametropes don't come to us and don't go to you. The self-score of self-prescription is negative for us and for you. And so probably if we learn to go hand in hand in absolute respect for mutual competencies, we have prairies for the benefit of citizens. Thank you so much. Goodbye.
Grazie mille. Grazie.